from Eclectic Images, and today we're doing some more Aussie summer scenes on gloss card. Thank you for joining us. Okay, let's have a look at what we're using today. So we're going to be using some of our Aussie stamps, the beach scene, and I'm just going to be using some little pieces out of this one. We're also going to be using our gorgeous Pelican Zen and Hilly Horizon quite a bit, and a little bit out of the grass set as well. Our inks, we're using Catherine Pooler inks, and some from, they're mostly from the party collection. We've got some from the Spring Fling party collection, which is It's a Boy, It's a Girl, and Belini. And then from the party collection, party dress, I think it is. Let me have a quick look. Life of the Party. Life of the Party, we've got Aquatini, Something Borrowed, and Tiki Torch. And then from our neutrals range, Midnight, plus some nice sandy colours with Sandcastle and Over Coffee. We're going to be doing our applying of inks with the future brushes. I'll mostly be working with the larger number 10 size, but something like this you could easily be using the number 8, and we will use some fine stuff with the little number 2 one as well. So what we're making is this gorgeous card. So what I'm looking for is a really soft sunrise, quite different to our brilliant tropical one that we did in our last clip. So this one is looking for some really soft colours and using the Hilly Horizon in some different ways. Now with the Aussie beach scene, it's in a portrait view, so it's really good if you're doing cards for portrait, but on landscape it only stamps part of the card, which is fine if you want to cut your card back, or if you're happy to have a little bit of blank card either side. But this way, by using it with the Hilly Horizon, we're going to just take some bits out of it and make it fit on our landscape card. So let's get a bit of card and get started. I've already stamped our Pelican. This is so that the ink had plenty of time to dry. The Midnight ink gives a really good black on the card, but like most inks on gloss card, it does take a bit of drying. And rather than sitting here for a while with a heat gun, we've pre-stamped. Okay, so we're now going to get our beach scene. On my sample card, I actually used the blackjack colour to stamp some of the scenic bits, but on this one, we're going to do it with the Over Coffee, the brown. Okay, now what I'm going to do is just ink up. What I'm wanting is to bring a little bit of the beach scene into this corner. I want some of those nice little fronds, but I'm not wanting the waves, and I'm not wanting the fronds further on. So what I'm going to do is just ink up the bit that I want, and with the Catherine Pooler inks, nice and squishy, so just tap gently, and I'm just going to get a cloth and just wipe off any areas that I don't want ink on, just to make sure I haven't included those bits. Lay it on our card, making sure that our little horizon line there runs off the little hill bit runs off the edge of the card. And there we've got some sand hills and fronds. So now I'm going to come in with the same colour and our Hilly Horizon stamp and stamp some extra sand dunes. So I'm going to want a little bit, which way shall we go? Do is just mask that little piece there and stamp some in here, making sure that I've inked up the area of the stamp that I want to use. Again, running it off the edge of the card, and I'm just going to go over this bit here just to add some of our sand dune texture to it. But I've ended up with a bit there that I wasn't quite planning on, so I need to make something of that. So we're going to mask that. So you don't always have to use your whole stamp. You can actually use pieces out of it. Okay, so that sort of fills that out. And let's just add that little bit of sandy texture into that one as well. So that gives us some sand dunes there. Now I'm also on the sample one had a little bit of like a hillside in that end. So to do that, I'm actually going to mask what will be our horizon line and mask our Pelican, just so I don't accidentally do anything over him. So this is where I've already stamped him on a bit of scrap paper and cut him out. So we're going to look for where we're going to have our horizon line. Now with the Hilly Horizon stamp, one end ends in a nice little point as we did on the sand dunes there. The other end is designed to join onto that bit so you can make longer horizon lines, but it means we've got this odd bit here that we're not wanting to use. So I'm actually going to ink up this part of it to stamp our sand dunes. So let's give it a good wipe, make sure it's really clean, and ink up the bit that I want. Let's turn this around so I can see what I'm doing, but hopefully you can see as well. So I'm making sure that that horizon line's fairly straight. And making sure I've got my stamp around the right way, that helps. And let's just stamp. Do a fairly abrupt one. And then we're going to do one a little bit further down. So again, just going to ink up that stamp. And I'm just going to use my cloth just to make sure I haven't got any where I don't want it. And we're just going to bring in a little bit of an extra sand dune just in there. Okay, right, now let's start doing some colouring. We'll just give those just a quick run over with the heat gun just to get them dry so we don't smudge things. And we'll start with our skyline, which again will give them more time to dry. Now let's pop the Pelican in, and we're going to pop our skyline, which is just a straight edge mask. So meeting where that sand dune's meeting the water, and just checking that I'm fairly even both sides so that my horizon line is straight. And we're going to pop in a little mask. This will be the rising sun. Okay. So we're all covered and holding those in place. I'm just wondering which is the best way for the cameraman. Is it better with my hand on the other side so I'm actually, is that better view for people so I haven't got this hand in the way? Cool. All right, let's get out our colours. So I'm just going to go with some soft peach and pink and then a little bit of blues. So picking up some of the Belini with our brush and just start off with some circles. And then I'm actually going to, because I want it to look a little bit like morning clouds, I'm just going to waft it. Is that a good word? Waft it in. A bit down below him. So we're getting right in close to Pelican, and his beak mask has just moved a little bit, which means we would get a white line. So I'm just going to shift it back and make sure it's totally covering his beak and not covering where we want to have sky. That's better. Okay, so now I can just get a bit of that ink right in there. Just put a little bit stronger just on our horizon line. Okay, let's pick up a little bit of It's a Girl, that really soft pink. And again, we'll waft it in. I'm going to be going over the sand dunes with some brown, so if I get a little bit of pink on there, I'm not going to let that worry me. And then let's come in with It's a Boy. Just add in some soft blues there as well. I've got a light blue brush here. Takes a little bit of, when you're used to doing soft circles and things, it takes a little bit of confidence to actually just put the brush on without doing circles. But because we're doing a sort of, I'm looking for a little bit of wafty cloud look, I don't mind if we've got lines and things. That's sort of the idea. Now let's just deepen off the sky a little bit with something borrowed. Just pouncing along our edge. As you've got less ink on the brush, follow it in a little bit so it blends. If I need to, just buff it back with a lighter brush. Okay, there's our sky. With a mask that wants to stay stuck, and I don't want it to stay stuck. There we go. Now we do need to put a little bit of orange just across where the sun's coming up so that we still see a horizon line across it. So let's place our mask back in and just do a very little waft of orange there. Not much at all, it just gives us that little bit of horizon there. Okay, now the other thing that I want to do is with the Aquatini, I'm going to stamp in some waves with the Hilly horizon. So we're not just using it as sand hills, we're going to use it for the waves. And this was an idea that I had a card sent to me by one of our fans, and she'd used the Hilly horizon to make the white, she'd embossed it in white as the edges of the waves. I actually have put it up on our Facebook page, and it just, I thought, I've never used Hilly horizon that way. So this is where my take on that one. She was looking down on it, so it worked really well with the embossing. I'm going to do it in more of a watercolour because we're looking across it. So let's just cover up our sand dunes a little bit here. We'll leave the mask on our Pelican because we don't really want to put water through him. Okay. On my sample I did 2 lines of the water, so we'll do that again. So we want the edge of the water, so to be the more, let me show you on a non-stained stamp, the more solid line is going to be our front edge. So we ink our stamp up. And pop one in about here. I think on the sample one I might have done that in the It's a Boy, but never mind, let's keep going. Okay, so that gives us some waves. Now while that's drying, let's do a bit of work on our sand dunes. So with some sandcastle, let's switch to my brown brushes, which I've put on the other side of me, there we go, and pick up some sandcastle, and we're just going to, I'm not going to bother with masking, I am going to use a bit of paper just to hold. We'll leave little Pelican masked, but I'm going to just put that bit of paper there just so I've got something to hang on to. And we can put our brush down. Let me put the card on its side a bit so you can see what I'm doing more. Put the brush down on the edge and then just push it up towards the top of the sand dunes. And then we also want this area across here to be sand dunes as well. No, not sand dunes, sand. And again, I'm going to push it up towards the edge of the water, but not actually meet the water completely. Let me move that out of the way. So our water is going to come across to here. Please apologise for my phone buzzing in the background. Now, I'm going to come in with the smaller brush. So this is the Filbert brush. And we're going to add in with the over coffee colour, which is our medium brown. I want to add in a bit of wet sand look. But I also want to leave a bit of light colour where the waters, where we have white foamy water reaching the shore. So about here, we're going to pop in a little bit of colour and then soften it out. And if we need to, grab your big buffy brush and buff it out a bit, so we end up with this deeper area following the line of the wave. actually thinking I've done that the wrong way around. It would have a harder edge where it finishes. So I'm actually going to add in a bit of a stronger edge on that side too. And we're going to pop in some depth. Oh, we might do it over this side too, where the sand dunes finish. Okay, let's put in some depth behind our dunes. So where we've got a sand dune behind one, we can add a little bit of the over coffee in there, and that'll give our sand dunes just a little bit more perspective and a bit more 3D quality to them. I'm having trouble with words today. This is going to be interesting. And we'll also colour in our ones up the back here. So back to the sandcastle, and I'm just going to put a bit of a water edge in there. And move this up to the horizon line there. Now if I want to get close to that top edge, I'd move my card around, press the brush down and wiggle it in. And then I can push it right up to that edge, and I haven't got to stop and just keep masking everything. But we also then want to add some of the over coffee in where the one dune is in front of the other one, and create ourselves a little bit of a nice shadow there. It's very cool how you can just add those little extra bits of colour, and it just creates so much more perspective for your card. Rightio. So now hopefully our ocean stuff has dried enough that we can now start adding some colour there. And as I often do, I want to leave a little bit of white across the ocean, just where that morning sun is just hitting the tops of the waves. And I also want to leave quite a bit of white either side of this where our waves are crashing. So it's going to be a little bit tricky, but we like tricky, don't we? Okay, let's mask our horizon line. And because I'll place the mask on so I can just see a bit of the sky colour. That way I don't get a white line where the two meet. But I've just got to have a look at where that sunlight is starting and finishing. That's just, oh, we haven't got our little pelican masked. Oh my goodness. This is where he would definitely get way too much colour on him. So now we enter the zone where we're starting to hold down multiple things and not get messed up with it. And a little bit of our pinky colour. And then we start coming in with our blues. So we've got our It's a Boy and a bit of Aquatini. Pick up my blue brush. And again, quite scrappy. We want lots of texture. But trying to not go over our little bit of sunlit water. And we do need to come in this side. Oh, I've got my fingers right in the way there, haven't I, Maddie? Sorry. I'm just going to flip my brush over that way so I can push up against the edge of that sand dune there. Now we also want some It's a Boy in between here, but leaving some white there We can go right close to the edge of our dunes, but here we want to leave a little bit of white both sides. And we'll just come in with a little bit of Aquatini just to deepen some of those areas. Where should we put it? Maybe on the edges a bit more. So we'll do this side as well. Okay, let's have a look at how we're going. Very pretty, isn't it? I think a little bit of Aquatini coming in around that bright sun might look good. So I'm going to press the brush down, just wiggle it in and get a few water lines across there. Nice. Okay, oh, I'm a bit excited about this one. It's come out really nicely. I think I would like to soften though that where this wet sand is meeting the water's edge. If we've got frothy waves there, it would be a little bit more broken up. It wouldn't be a solid line, so I just want to soften that a bit. Okay, let's start. We'll add some colour to our Pelican. So this is where the Tiki torch comes in. And this takes a small brush as well. So just picking up some colour on just the end of the brush. With all your brushes, always just ink the very end of them. It means you're not wasting ink and you've got a bit more control over how much ink you're putting on. And also remember that when you're colouring like this with a brush like this, it's not accurate colouring. I could go for a much finer brush, but it would take longer to get the colouring in, and I'm not very patient at waiting for longer. You will also find that these little brushes don't last as long as the bigger brushes do. The fine Filbert edge, this one's starting to get quite fluffy. Don't know if Matthew can get in and get a close up. Turn that around, it's looking quite a bit fluffy, which means I haven't got as crisp an edge there. So I don't get as accurate colouring as I was. So this one's almost due to be retired. But they're not an expensive brush. So where I want to get a fine edge with it, I make sure that I turn the card around so I'm pushing the brush up to that edge. So to do this edge, turn the card and push the brush into the edge that way. And that's how I can get a little bit of accuracy. Not a lot. We're working on gloss card here. Okay, so that's my card. And I'm just now going to come in and do some overstamping. And then we're going to add in some extra water highlights. So I'm just going, I could dry this and do my overstamping with the Versamark and the embossing, but I'm actually just going to come in with the Catherine Pooler Black today, just for something a bit different. So this is where we bring in colours like stamps like our extra tall grasses in the grass set. Just make sure I've inked enough of it that I can run it off the bottom of the card. Now, if you're not confident with stamping on the gloss card because it is slippery, this is a great time to use something like your stamping platform or Misty tool. Now this time I'm going to use this stamp. No, that's enough like that one. I'm going to use the smaller one. So there is this gorgeous little stamp in the same grass set. I'll just stamp it out on the scrap paper so you can see the image. It's great little grass. So it makes good little green grass, but also makes great little reeds, and here it's little sort of pussy willow type grass. Do a bit around our pelican's feet. So So again, you can use all of the stamp or just little bits of it. And that just gives us, again, it's creating a little bit more perspective. That was to show that the ocean is in the background. And I do want to add in a few more little bits. So I'll just clean that stamp so I can use that block. I want to put some seagulls in there and one of the words from this beach set. I'm just looking at where a word might fit in nicely. I think I'm just going to pop it across the water. And again, this is where it would be really good if I stop to use my stamp platform, because it's where I'm likely to slip doing a word. How often do we slip when we're just doing the final touches on a card? And let's have a seagull up in the sky. So in the beach set, the Aussie beach, that word comes with it, as do the couple of seagulls. And there's a little pair of seagulls as well. Now, the last little step is the highlights, which I'm going to use a white Posca pen for this. And here I'm going to add in some crashing waves. So just test on my scrap, make sure I've got some coming out. And I'm going to be trying to use it with different pressures so I get different sizes of dots. I'm just going to pop that on so I've got somewhere to rest my hand. And we start adding some little dots in. So more pressure when I want a bigger dot, less pressure on a smaller one. And I'm using the 3mm, the finer Posca pen. And just trying to make it look as random as I can. Just to break up that edge and make it look like that's foamy, crashy water. Making sure I don't do any dots over the top of our nice fronds there, because that would definitely spoil our perspective. A little bit on this side as well. And there's our card. So that's our waves crashing on the Aussie beach on a beautiful sunrisey morning. I'll just bring it forward so Matthew can see it without all my scratchy mess in the background. I hope you like that one. So you're just with the brushes and the Catherine Pooler inks and some of our gorgeous stamps to get that beautiful soft look. Thanks again for watching. Don't forget to have a look at our YouTube channel, Eclectic Images, to find more ideas on the glossy card. And we hope to see you next time. We've got another couple that we're going to do in this series. So I hope to see you next time for some more Aussie summer. Okay, bye.